Everybody, welcome back. In this video, we are looking at the Week 7 NFL final look picks for Draftkings and Fanduel. I haven't had a ton of content out for football this week, minus the showdowns. So I wanted to, for sure, make a final look video. We'll kind of break it down on this Saturday afternoon. We got a lot of the news already on the slate. Well, maybe we'll get a couple of people that are active or surprised inactive by the time 11:30 rolls around tomorrow. But for the most part, we kind of know who's going to play and not play on the slate. So let's get started. If you enjoy the videos, appreciate if you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Follow me on Twitter at the DFS Process. You can check out the website if you want to join. Link is in the description. Check out Prize Picks. Use promo code Process if you want to get a free $100 there once you deposit at $100. And let's get started. So quarterback options this week. You have Kyler Murray. He's jacked up to $8,500. Murray started off the season red hot. They are still undefeated, the only undefeated team in the NFL. Murray's production has come down a little bit just because they have been winning by so many points. Some of these games that he hasn't had to throw a ton in the second half, and he's not running as much as he was early on in parts of last year. Last two games combined, he just has 7 total yards, and he's put the ball on the ground 6 times the last 2 games. Those were against pretty tough defenses against Cleveland and San Fran. A lot different matchup here. The last 3 defenses have been pretty tough, so a lot different story against Houston. Even though I don't expect Houston to be in this game at all, I still expect the Cardinals to put up close to 30, if not more than like 35 points today. And you'll see Murray probably have multiple touchdowns. I would be shocked if he doesn't have like 25 plus fantasy points. Right below him, you have Patrick Mahomes. That is going to be one of the best games to target on the slate fantasy-wise. You have the big dog, Derrick Henry. You can run it back with Tyreek Hill, Kelsey. You even have Daryl Williams as a great cheap running back. Mahomes has been okay this year. He's been great from a yardage perspective, fantasy perspective. 8 interceptions. Some of those haven't been his fault, but some of them have been kind of careless throws. He's thrown up the ball just a couple times just for no reason when he's getting sacked. 84 against Tennessee. I think I'd probably like to go Mahomes, but I might go to Kyler Murray because I think Mahomes will be more popular than Murray on tomorrow's slate. The mid-range, 7K range, you have a couple of pieces like Lamar Jackson against Cincinnati. He has been one of the best fantasy quarterbacks, even though he only has 9 touchdown passes. Just running the ball gives him so much upside. He's going to get most often 50-plus rushing yards a game. He's done that in all but one game this year so far. And the other ones, he still has thrown touchdown pass in every game at least. So you're getting that upside there. You're also getting the rushing upside. Pretty good price tag. You're saving $1,000 from Patrick Mahomes, which I definitely would do. So I like Lamar Jackson right now as a favorite quarterback that we've talked about out of the top like handful. Matthew Stafford is $7,100. He's going up against Detroit, his former team, so he might have some revenge on his mind. Although he should be kind of happy that they traded him to Los Angeles because he's having a ton of success this year, having great weapons to throw to, and they are winning a lot of games. So not a lot to be revengeful about if you're Matthew Stafford. He also gets to live in Los Angeles, which is always a perk. He's fine. I think this is a spot where, even last week against the Giants, they're still throwing the football a lot, even when they're up by multiple touchdowns. We saw that last week against the Giants. This week, you'd expect them to be up by multiple touchdowns at home against the Lions. Now, whether Stafford still likes to rub it in his former team, piles up the points, piles up the yardage, we'll see. I would probably just get up to Lamar Jackson over him or get up to like Aaron Rodgers. You compare Aaron Rodgers and Devonte Adams here together. Jalen Hurts has really struggled throwing the football this year. It has been no surprise. He has a couple of huge games, but having 115, 198, 190-yard throwing games in 3 out of his first 6 is not pretty. This one against the Vegas Raiders, they started off the season very well, and then they had the good win last week, but they're still not as tough as we thought they would be, like defensively, even offensively. They had their struggles at times. I think the Eagles, they are going into Las Vegas, but it's basically going to be a home game. There are so many Philly fans that are heading down to the game. A ton of buses and a ton of flights have been booked. So you're going to see a lot of green in the stadium as you normally do, but especially with these Eagles fans, they travel very well. So it's not really going to be a road game for Hurts. I expect him to be able to put up some fantasy points. I think he's going to bounce back. Wouldn't be surprised if they keep this game very close. I think this one is sneaky, has a chance to be a sneaky high shootout that not that many people will be loading up on, but I love going Jalen Hurts. I played him a lot this year, and it's worked out because even if he's not throwing a ton of yardage. He's still been getting you safe with fantasy. He hasn't dropped under 20 fantasy points. Even struggling to throw the football, he's still getting you touchdowns on the ground. He's still taking off running, so he gives you just so much upside there. So go ahead and plug in Jalen Hurts right now as my QB1. Other options here are some of the cheap guys I like Ryan Tannehill is only $6,400. If this game turns into a shootout, maybe Derrick Henry kind of gets eased out of the game if the Chiefs pile up some points early and they're not able to run the football much. Then Tannehill will have to throw. He hasn't done a great job throwing at all this year. 6-4 touchdown interception ratio. His wide receivers have let him down with some drops like A.J. Brown, but it looks like he'll have both A.J. Brown and Julio tomorrow, so that is going to be a big plus for him. We have Joe Burrow, tough matchup against the Ravens. They've really shored up defensively the last couple of weeks. After the second half, basically, in that Colts game, they really took over. Carr, 6K. I'm looking a little bit cheaper. I like Matt Ryan, $5,700 against Miami. This is a defense that got absolutely shredded in London last week. They really have no body to slow anybody down on the defensive end. They're not great at getting pressure to the quarterback. So you'll see a guy like Matt Ryan, who's not in front of a very good offensive line, have some time in the pocket, and I think he's going to get not only is he getting Calvin Ridley back, but he also is getting Russell Gage back. So that's a little weapon that he has to throw the football to. We saw the emergence of Kyle Pitts, which is maybe what he needed. And to have a week without Calvin Ridley where he's the alpha, and he really showed out last week on that early Sunday game. So I got to go Matt Ryan as a favorite value play. Him and Tua are both really good options squaring off against each other. Personally, I like Matt Ryan just because I think he's a little bit safer. And that's the main pieces. I don't see myself going any cheaper than that. We could have maybe there was a chance Tyrod Taylor returned this week. That would have been nice because the matchup is okay against Arizona. They've been good defensively, but I still like the way Taylor, at 49, if he was going to play and be a full go, he would have been fun to roster, but it's not going to happen this week. Moving on to running backs, you have a ton of decisions to be made here. There's only 7 to 8 maybe running backs that I'm really looking at heavily on this slate. Derrick Henry is going to be in the mix. If you expect him to continue to put up 3 touchdowns every single week, he's been awesome. It's been fun to watch, but there's going to be a week where $9,200 Derrick Henry kills you. It might only happen once. It might only happen twice, but there's no way he's going to finish with 3 touchdowns every single game. These weeks where he gets you just 1 touchdown or 0 touchdowns, which is going to happen, he is probably going to hurt a lot of people because he's being talked about so much this week that I would not be surprised if he ends up coming a little bit disappointing because we could easily see Patrick Mahomes put up some early points and then they know the Titans are going to run the football early, maybe slow down to stop the run, and then in the second half they're down by 14 and 21 points. They just have to throw the football. So for that reason, the fact that it's going to be super popular, I will be passing on Derrick Henry at $9,200. I like the more balanced approach on this slate because you have Darrell Henderson at $6,600. He gets a date with the Lions. Every single running back has crushed against the Lions this year, and Henderson gets a ton of work on the ground, gets a couple of targets as well. He looks like a great option. You have Leonard Fournette at $6,400. Tougher matchup against the Bears, but he gets a spot without Antonio Brown, so more work for some of these other guys here. And Fournette's been getting you good targets in the passing game, 6, 5, and 5 the last 3. You're not seeing much action out of Ronald Jones at all, backing him up. And the touches have just been huge. 28 touches last week against Philly. They just ran it with Fournette for most of the game, and he basically just iced the game late. So you have Fournette, you have Joe Mixon, 65, tough spot against Baltimore. They've been very good against the run, but that price tag is still good enough to where I would be willing to take a shot because Mixon will also get you some work out of the backfield with receptions. And then even at the bottom, low 6K range, you have Josh Jacobs, you have Cordell Patterson, 63. I like Jacobs more than Patterson. Patterson's been hitting value every single game so far, but now this week, Atlanta's almost fully healthy. They got Ridley back. They have Pitts there now. They have Gage back. You have still Mike Davis. If there was any week where Mike Davis was out, then I would love to play Cordell Patterson. But the price tag is still a little bit prohibitive. I would say in cash games for tournaments, go full board if you want to, just because the matchup is really solid. But I like Josh Jacobs. He gets a ton of work. He also gets you a couple of targets a game. Always utilized in the red zone. 4 touchdowns in 4 weeks for him. And now we got some news without Latavius Murray, so that's going to open the door for Devonta Freeman to maybe become the starter, which looks like he will be. But they also have Le'Veon Bell, who they gave a good amount of work to last week. I think they might be split 50-50 or maybe 60-40, and then you still have Tyson Williams if he happens to mix in on any down. So even though the price tag on Devonta Freeman looks great, I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up with a decent game with like 12 to 15 fantasy points, but I don't know if he will be like breaking the slate or anything like that. But I would play Freeman over Le'Veon Bell with them being similarly priced. Freeman even $100 cheaper. But when the first guy I'm going to go ahead and plug in at running back is Daryl Williams, just nicely priced at $5,800. He got almost all the work last week against Washington. Good spot here against Tennessee to maybe do better on the ground because he didn't do great last week. And he's going to get you targets out of the backfield as well. So those are going to be probably like 5 to 6 points right out of the backfield with the receptions. He's utilized in the red zone and the goal line work. And expect him, if he continues to get like 20 plus touches, to be very productive at this salary. Daryl Williams, first guy I like. And then you can plug in Darrell Henderson if you wanted to. Josh Jacobs is also firmly in the mix. But Henderson, Williams look like a great pairing. Wide receiver Devonte Adams is only $8,900, coming off of a down week. Expect him to have a huge week at home against Washington. They've been bottom of the league in almost all the major categories in defending wide receivers. Adams just has 2 touchdowns on the season, but he's still averaging 22 fantasy points. We saw all the upside that he brings against Cincinnati. We don't have to really go into depth with Devonte Adams' upside. We have all seen it for years. Tyreek Hill is 86. Looks like he will play. Tennessee's also has been getting crushed in the secondary, so I think you can't go wrong with either Hill or Adams. They both give you huge upside. Then you even have Cooper Kupp right there. I would probably rank it Adams, Hill, then Kupp. Kupp had a huge week once again, no surprise. He's been doing that all year. Another 10-plus target game for him. This is one that hopefully if they get off to a big lead, I don't know if they'll throw a lot in the second half. Wasn't the case last week, but we never know what McVay's going to do on a week-to-week basis. And then you have Hopkins going up against his former team at $7,700. He's starting to emerge finally after he was quiet. Now, all of a sudden, he's up to 6 touchdowns after he just had 3 after week 4. 3 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. The targets are still not there for him on a week-to-week basis. He hasn't had 10-plus targets at all this year. So a lot different of a story. For cash games, you're looking at the top 3 for tournaments. I like Hopkins here. DJ Moore will bounce back against the Giants this week. He's only 71. But I got to go Calvin Ridley. The price tag on Ridley is just too cheap. Great matchup against Miami at $6,600. A guy like Hopkins, who is yet to get 10-plus targets, really has done it in almost every single week. 3 out of 4 weeks, he's gotten you 10-plus targets. The touchdowns have not come. He only has 1 touchdown, but he's still being utilized a lot inside the red zone, inside the 10. When they're throwing, they're looking to Ridley's way first. Matter of time before he has like a 2-touchdown game. Expect that to potentially happen this week because I expect Atlanta to put up some points. So Ridley's going to first wide receiver I go ahead and plug in. And then you have some, instead of going all the way up if you don't want to, you have a good amount of value at $6K, especially now without Antonio Brown. So you're probably going to want to go with one of Mike Evans or Chris Godwin, if not both, into your lineup. This week I'm going Godwin, sub 6K, cheapest price tag he's been in quite some time. He hasn't been productive. Touchdowns are there, 3 touchdowns, but this week without Antonio Brown, still without the tight end Rob Gronkowski, this is the week that I think Godwin could go off. Him and Evans has already had a couple of monster games. Maybe Tom Brady wants to have Chris Godwin join into the fun. So I think both are viable plays. You can play both and just kind of be satisfied because most of the production is going to come for those 2 this week. And then I don't mind going A.J. Brown. He's 63. Maybe Julio's still. He said he's going to play, but we all know with hamstrings you can easily re-injure them during the game if they're not 100% healed. A.J. Brown is at a good price tag for tournaments. Even in cash, you could look to him. But some of the safer options, I would say at the bottom, Sterling Shepard. There's no Kadarius Toney. There's also no Galladay. So Shepard should get peppered with targets. Not the easiest matchup. Carolina's been good against the pass, but they've been bad against the run the last few weeks. So you have Devontae Booker, who we could look to. Jaylen Waddle is 56. Right now, Parker is questionable. If there's no Parker, I like Waddle. He got 13 targets in last week against Jacksonville. they haven't been throwing deep to him, so that kind of hurt some of his. You're going to need some of these targets because they're not throwing deep very much. But the price tag is very fair. Good matchup against Atlanta. Definitely Jaylen Waddle makes some sense. And then I like Devonte Smith. I would expect Smith to become a lot more involved. They got rid of Zach Ertz, so it's going to be Dallas Goedert, Devonte Smith. Occasionally you get Miles Sanders. Hopefully they start to run the football more. But Devonte Smith's price tag has just been down. It's the cheapest he's been since week 1 at $5,400. He's had a couple of decent games, but the targets are still somewhat there. They just struggling to throw the football. But if Jalen Hurts has a good game passing, which I do think he probably can this week, then I would like to go with Devonte Smith to play with him in a stack, because not only has Hurts looked to Smith's way a lot this year, but he's had at least 2, if not 3 touchdowns called back due to penalties. So his outlook would have been a lot better if those touchdowns ended up holding. So I like Smith a lot at that price tag. And then in the 4K range, you have like Darnell Mooney at 46. I like to look to him. You have good price tag on Darius Slayton at 4,000. He's going to get a lot of work just because they don't have that many bodies. They have McCole Hardman at only $4,300. Then the 3K range, basically looking at the one guy everybody's talking about is Rashad Bateman, who's 37. He makes 34. He makes a lot of sense if you wanted to go to a cheap wide receiver. Tight end wise, Travis Kelce all the way at the top, 76. Great option. I like Kelce the most. And then I'm looking at maybe like Darren Waller, then Kyle Pitts. Then I like Mike Gesicki, especially if there's no Devontae Parker this week once again. We saw Gesicki be a big part in the offense. He's already been targeted a ton as a tight end this year. Only 1 touchdown, that should go up with just the amount of targets that he's getting. He makes for a good amount of sense at tight end. Then you have Zach Ertz making his debut for the Cardinals. Goddard is right there at 46, so I think I like Gesicki more than Goddard, but Goddard is in play as well. And then for the value, you have O.J. Howard, who I think if he plays looks appealing because they don't have Antonio Brown, they don't have Gronk still, so you could see him build off of that big game that he had against Philly. And Ricky Seals-Jones is 37. He was popular last week. You kind of got it done on 1 catch. That was a long one for a touchdown. I don't know if you can count on that every single week. So that's the main pieces I'm looking at. Defense-wise, we have all the way at the bottom, like the Eagles defense against the Raiders. I like them as a cheap one. Like the Jets at $2,400. And then I'm looking up a little bit to the Ravens defense. 29 against the Bengals at home. They can get pressure to the quarterback. They are starting to play well the last couple of weeks defensively. Then if you wanted to go all the way up, you have the Rams. You have the Rams against the Lions. But I'd say the Cardinals look to be one of the most popular and probably the best defense to look at on DraftKings. They're only $3,100. You know exactly what, except for 1 week where Davis Mills looked like Tom Brady. He has not been very good at all the other weeks. They struggle to score points. They struggle to move the football. The Cardinals defense has played very well. So I would not mind taking putting $3,100 Cardinals defense right into your lineup here. But that's it for the DraftKings side. Let's touch on FanDuel. All right, over on FanDuel, quarterback options. You have Lamar, Mahomes, and Murray as the top 3. Mahomes and Kyler flip-flop than they are on DraftKings. Only by $100 difference between the two. Then you have Jalen Hurts sitting at 83. I like that price tag there. A little expensive, but I like him more than Stafford and even more than Brady, even though Brady's been kind of proving that the doesn't matter, that if the quarterback doesn't run the football for fantasy, he's been just awesome all year. But maybe the Bears been playing better defense. I don't know if Brady will have a ceiling performance this week. For some of the cheaper plays, kind of like Matt Ryan at that salary at only 73. Tua is only 71, so you make some sense if you wanted to go all the way down. Then you have Justin Fields, and to 65 for tournaments looks like a decent option. But I'll build around Hurts on both sides, kind of like rooting for the same players to perform well. So give me Hurts at $8,300. It's very easy to pair him with Devonte Smith on FanDuel if you wanted to. He's only 58. He's too cheap on FanDuel. Looking at the wide receivers in that range, you have guys like Hunter Renfrow, You have Ruggs, who gives you tournament upside. Then you have like Boyd. You have Rondale Moore, Jameson Crowder, some more riskier options here. I love the price tag on Devonte Smith. I don't mind getting to Waddle as well. He's fine either ways, but he looks better if there's no Devontae Parker once again. And then Chris Godwin is only 67. I want to get to him. I want to get to at least one of these top two on the Bucs without Antonio Brown. The targets are just going to be a lot more condensed this week, so wouldn't be surprised if they both have good games, but I would be shocked if one doesn't have at least 20 fantasy points. And then running back wise, Daryl Williams is my favorite on both sites, point per dollar wise. He's only $6,700 on FanDuel, $58 on DraftKings, so he looks great on both sides. Derrick Henry is $11K, so super expensive. I personally won't be getting all the way up there. Joe Mixon is a lot cheaper. Henderson is $8K, so he's expensive, but it's fine on this slate where you have like some of these cheaper wide receivers now, and then you have Josh Jacobs at $69 as a good value option. You have another very good cheap play, I would say, is Devontae Booker, who is going to get almost all the work out of the backfield with Saquon out once again. He was productive 2 weeks ago against Dallas. He got 2 touchdowns. He would have been productive last week, but they just were out of the game early on, and mainly Daniel Jones' fault, just turning the ball over too much. But he's still getting good work in the backfield in not only carries, but also reception. That $5,800, I think he can also have a very good game. And then it'll allow you to pay up for another stud if you wanted to, whether that's going to be Adams, whether that's going to be Henry for you, or whether you want to get all the way up to Kelsey. And then last guy I'm going to plug in is the same wide receiving core on both sides. Calvin Ridley at $7,300. I think you can go all the way up for Adams if you wanted to at $9,000. But there's a big difference between these top three, and then you're still getting solid studs here, but they might only hit their ceilings a couple times in a handful of weeks. Ridley, we're still looking for that monster game. This is the week that it could happen. I've been saying that a lot this year, but if he doesn't come through this week, I don't know if he'll ever come through. And I probably would just stop playing him for the rest of the year, unless he's like 6,000 or something ridiculous. But 73 and 66 on both sides is underpriced for the matchup, and maybe he's well rested getting that week off. Well, I don't know what kind of thing he was dealing with. It was a personal issue, but hopefully he's doing well, and now he can go out there and ball for the rest of the season. So that's it for the video. Hopefully you enjoy. Defense-wise, the Cardinals defense looking like the best on both sides. The little Rams are up there. And I don't mind getting to the Ravens at 43 or going down to the Eagles defense at only 35. So that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. Best of luck tomorrow, and I'll see you all next time.